To the corporations that put him into the White House, George W. Bush was an investment that paid off big time. Take that company that came up with the phony felon list, Choice Point. They got it 95% wrong, but they didn't get the boot. They got the big no-bid contracts, including one for $67 million to help Bush fight his war on terror.
And they weren't the only company helpful to Bush's election to hit the White House jackpot.
George W. Bush, as governor and now as president, is an absolute corporate wet dream.
Dreams and schemes hatched in these glass towers of Texas.
Looks powerful, looks invincible. In fact, it's the gravestone here in Houston of what was the largest power corporation on this planet, Enron. Here's something that caught my eye. Bush takes office. Just 3 days later, he signs an executive order that raises the price of electricity in California. Nearly bankrupts that state, but earns these guys billions. Now, why would our president do that?
Jim Hightower, once the Commissioner of Agriculture for the state of Texas, is now a radio columnist. From inside government and out, he's tracked the Bush family's mix of politics and payouts for years.
Any fantasy that the boss of a major corporation has can come true if you just put in some money into Bush's personal or political pockets. They're very loyal to each other and to those who are loyal to them. They stand and deliver for those who put money into their politics or into their personal accounts.
I, George Walker Bush, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
Enron puts in a few $100,000 into Bush's presidential campaign. In the first 5 or 6 months of the administration, it reaps hundreds of millions of dollars in personal benefit.
Texas Republic Justice Chief Craig McDonald is a modern-day vigilante who follows the political money trail.
Here's Ken Lay, who's the CEO of Enron. He delivered hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Bush campaign. This is the power team. They hit the long ball, and they can put you all the way in the White House. The Pioneer Network was built by George W. Bush off the network of cronies, acquaintances, and funders that his father had during presidency. They built this network not just out of whole cloth, but it had been a network that helped the family dynasty, if you will.
To be a pioneer, you have to pledge to raise at least $100,000 for the Bush candidacy.
These were pioneers who were plowing new ground to create records amounts of money for Bush's run for the presidency. The legal limit for anyone to give to the campaign is $1,000.
So the way they get around that campaign limit is you get a corporate executive who wants favors from the incoming Bush administration, who will tap his family, extended family, corporate colleagues, country club pals, golf buddies, etc., raking up $1,000 checks and bundle them up into $100,000 plus contributions to George W.'s presidential ambitions.
After the first year of Bush entering the White House, 43 of his elite group of pioneers received lush government appointments. They personally benefited. 19 of them appointed to ambassadorships.
Even before he takes the presidential oath, Bush forms a secret task force, including Enron's Ken Lay, to rewrite America's environmental and energy laws.
He put the very people who funded him in the room to devise a clean air policy. They wrote the policy, he enacted the policy, and the policy was strictly voluntary. Did nothing to clean up the air, yet he touted it as a major accomplishment.
Instead of the government telling utilities where and how to cut pollution, we will give them a firm deadline and let them find the most innovative ways to meet it.
These same funders were sick and tired of trying to play by the environmental rules and regulations. George Bush gave them an environmental clean air policy that any corporation would lust after.
How proud we are to be the #1 state in the country in air pollution.
Ken Lay got almost total, complete energy deregulation out of George Bush.
What did the Bush administration do? It refused to impose price controls, to put a cap on those utility prices, meaning a company like Enron could set its own prices to consumers.
Show me the money. Show me the money.
He was delivering a favor and a policy that the donors who put him in that office wanted.
consumers in California were being stiffed, and Enron was raking in hundreds of millions of dollars during that period in corrupt profits. So that's a pretty good payback.
But Enron squandered their California windfall in a series of spectacular frauds which imploded, leaving thousands jobless and pensioners bankrupt. Now, George tried to downplay his links with Enron's Ken Lay and other corrupt bosses.
By far, the vast majority of CEOs in America are good, honorable, honest people. In the corporate world, sometimes things aren't exactly black and white when it comes to accounting procedures, and the SEC's job is to look and is to determine whether or not the decision by the auditors was the appropriate decision.
Ken Lay, whom George W. fondly called Kenny Boy, was the major campaign contributor to George W. Bush, and they exchanged Christmas cards with each other. Ken Lay was very personal, very close with the Bush family.
I do know that Mr. Lay came to the White House early in my administration, along with I think 20 other business leaders to discuss the state of the economy. It was just kind of a general discussion. I have not met with him personally.
I've gotten my hands on a video of an Enron retirement party for one of Ken Lay's colleagues. It stars both Presidents Bush, more than happy to say a few encouraging words for their family's top campaign contributors.
You have been fantastic to the Bush family. I don't think anybody did more than you did to support George.
Don't leave Texas. You're too good a man. I appreciate your service to our great state. I look forward to working with you to make Texas a better place. Good luck in anything you do. You're a good Texan.
The simple process of getting things done in Texas, how important is cash in getting legislation through?
Well, it's the fuel of politics. I mean, that's how you get people that identify with your views elected. It is probably unseemly in many ways because I could give you $100,000, $200,000, I could give you as much $200,000, as much money as I want, and obviously that's going to have some effect on how you treat me.
Across from the Capitol, I found one of these, Ken Lay's former lobbyist, Andrea McWilliams. She and her husband sell their political connections to the Texas corporate elite, and they also rounded up over $100,000 in contributions for George W. Bush's presidential campaign. Why?
If every person in the United States could meet President Bush, they would understand why we have the level of support personally that we do for the president. He is an honest, equitable, hard-working man, and that's why we've supported him unequivocally. And I think he's doing a fabulous job.
And I love the phrase, government if necessary, not necessarily government.
Say, come on now. You are representing guys like Enron. You're saying that these companies make that type of investment and don't expect a return?
There is no way giving to someone like him is going to influence his decision. There's no quid pro quo.
Sounds like bullshit to me. Only cost $250,000 to cheat, lie, and steal. Well, it might be more profitable to steal.
So this is kind of the Wild West of campaign contributions?
It is the Wild West. It's the old saying, money talks and bullshit walks.
And money talks very politely to the Bush family. Not just the campaign cash for George W. and Brother Jeb. There was $1 billion the U.S. Treasury pumped into Brother Neil's bank, Silverado. And there's Brother Marvin. His investment funds are fattening on contracts for the war on terror. And Daddy, Bush Sr., became the first ex-president to sell his Oval Office connections for cash to oil companies and arms dealers. The Bushes are like other American dynasties, the Kennedys, the Rockefellers. But they've taken the game to a whole other level. See, the money gets them office, then the office gets them even more money. Call it the Bush cycle. And it's still rolling along.